Using AI today in agentic fashion. And I asked that because it's kind of a loaded question because I see agentic behavior, but I don't know if there's agents running around just yet. Jake, what are your thoughts about that?
That's a great question. I think that there are agents. I think it depends how you frame it. So there's levels to complexity of the agent in terms of the access and the information that an agent would have in terms of either a knowledge base or an access to other language models. So I think that there are agents. However, I think the complexity of which agents are created varies, and I think there's scope for discussion around the framing of the word agent as there are more sophisticated agents and agents with very simplistic architecture.
So I think for definition purposes, like I think an agent is a thing that uses tools at its own discretion in coming up with ways to get a job done. Like it uses tools and it makes choices about how to use those tools. That's my definition of an agent versus an automation, which is like a system that you set up that dictates how it should use the tools. What do you think about that definition? Would you change that? So it's
Well, I agree with you in the sense that I think that an agent is acting autonomously and being able to make those kind of decisions. However, it can fit in an automated workflow, and the automated workflow can determine the kind of information that is provided to that agent to be able to make some kind of discretionary decision autonomously outside of human control. Of course, humans can be used in the loop to oversee the access or supervised learning or prompting. So, yeah, I think that there's still scope. I think an agent can exist inside an automated flow, and the automated flow can determine the kind of information and knowledge bases that an agent has access to.
cool. I like that. So our goal today for Jake and I, we'll introduce ourselves in a minute and we'll talk about what we're going to cover. But our goal is to show you exactly how to build an AI SDR machine. So it's not a tool, it's not a gimmick, it's actually an intelligent machine that books qualified meetings. So this is one thing that it does. It can do other things, but this is what it does while you and your team are doing other things. So that's what we're going to jump into. There's going to be some giveaways at the end of this. We're going to give away an AI readiness strategy session to anyone who participates today. So please participate. And you can book on either one of these links, but I'll encourage you to book on the Stob link. And let me just put that in the chat here now so you can reference that. Let's put that here. Okay. Book your AI readiness strategy session here. Okay, there's the link in the chat. There's also other giveaways that we're going to hand out. A 16-part magnetic messaging framework. So you can look at this PDF and consider what your website is now in terms of the story it's telling and the message it has. Does it have all the bases that you need to touch to convert a human being? And I would say also to convert the AIs to understand exactly what you're selling. Also, we'll be giving away the 12 sales conversations that open minds and close deals. And after studying thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of sales conversations, it comes down to these 12 that needs to be had, or you will lose a deal. And the third giveaway is we're going to give away a really cool GPT that I built. And it's cool, not just because I built it, but it actually analyzes your website in the context of is it clear? Is it compelling? Is it telling the right story and what needs to be improved? And it's been trained on the magnetic messaging framework. Also giving away the AI readiness strategy session for you guys today. So just if you guys want to come off of mute or just type in the chat, what is it that you would like to get out of this conversation today? Is there anything you've come today in particular that would like to see and understand? Anything, feel free to come off of mute or just type in the chat. That would be great. So I would say that, so Amy, figure out how to get more leads. Love that. I love the clarity of that. Love that. So I'll say, Amy, this is who this is not for. And Ram, how to Gen AI ensure regulatory alignment? how Gen AI ensures regulatory alignment. So definitely type more in the chat about what you mean by regulatory alignment, or feel free to come off of mute. But let me share who this webinar is not for. So most people say who this webinar is for. This is not for CEOs in wait and see mode. This is for CEOs that want that first mover's advantage, that see the writing on the wall, hear the railroad train, the AI agentic railroad coming down, the continent of intelligence coming your way to work, and they want first movers advantage. This is not for leaders dabbling in AI without real change. This is definitely for leaders that want to make a change in their business. This is not for teams that are stuck in prompt testing phase, because this is so much requires so much more than that. And this is not for organizations hoping AI works without training or adoption. A lot of CEOs I know just hope that one day AI will just get plugged and played into the business. And that may happen sometime in the future, but it's not for today. This is not for anyone still blasting cold emails and calling that automation. It's not for that, you guys. So it is for you guys that want to make big changes to add AI to the mix. I just want to play for just a quick sec. Here's 15 seconds from Paul Speakman from Jaguar Freight. He's the CRO, and he said something really powerful here.
It is. It's so efficient, and I think that's where my team using Spot, it blew out of his mind the first time I showed him ChatGPT, and now he's got Spot. It's as we call it, it's the efficiencies of my team, I think, are just like exploding.
And so that's the kind of thing I want to see for everybody that's connecting with Jake and with I, to really get you exploding, get your team exploding with using AI. That's my goal. And one of the things that we've realized is not just about the prompt. The prompt is important and needs to be experimented with. But what I've learned, and I think what I learned from Jake and what we'll be sharing with you today, that it's not about the prompt. It's really about the training and the framing and the orchestration of all these pieces into a system. And Jake is going to open up the hood and show you that today. All right, so just a quick introduction. Jake, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, happy to do so. My name's Jake. I'm the CEO of Stob.AI, and what we are is a business that creates custom AI automated systems for businesses looking to scale. We develop on a platform called Make.com. It's valued at about 13.2 billion US dollars on the New York Stock Exchange. We're actually an official partner agency of this software platform, and it's a no-code solution. However, I'd recommend that you have a base understanding of Java if you are to use it, because base understanding of Java, HTML, and Python will send you a lot further than lacking those things. However, if you do need help, you can always contact. So we develop fully custom automated systems for sales, marketing, and operations, with the philosophy being that most businesses are stuck in phase one, a prompting phase, and we help businesses move towards fully automated structures. So thank you, Greg, for inviting me on. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Cool. And just a real short introduction for myself. I'm Greg Rosner, the CEO of PitchKitchen, and this is really why I'm in business. Because if you were to ask you this question, what's more important? Is it your product? First of all, your product is really important. It's got to be good. But what's more important, your product or your message? And what I found, if you want to answer this question, Amy, Barbara, or Ram, what have you found to be more important? Type in the chat or come off of mute. Yeah, the story, the message. So this is why we're in business. So we help organizations, help CEOs and their leadership team dial in their story that shows up on their website and all their marketing. So we started as a marketing agency, but we became an AI integrated sales and marketing agency, because once we train the AIs on the story, once we have the story and train the AIs on the story, that's the launch pad. That's really where we're seeing the scaling happen. So that's what we do. And we work with typically CEOs of VC-backed or startup companies that really are trying to get to the next level. So with that, let me stop sharing. I'll continue to share my screen, or Jake, you can get ready to share your screen.
Ready.
What I'd like to show today is Like this is a really cool picture, and I think I'm sharing this on my screen now. This is on make.com, and great, Jake, I think you're going to talk a little bit about how you come to build these systems. This is a several scenario system that maybe you want to describe what it is, with particular this AI SDR, how it works. So, Jake, do you want to share your screen so you can move around a little bit?
Absolutely. So I've got this ready to share, so bear with me. This is Greg's system. So when Greg came to us, he had a unique challenge, and it was one that we were very eager, interested to get into. So most sales systems, as Greg has mentioned, are automated systems, but they're not intelligent systems. They run a process such as using data or collecting data to email people. You've probably used many different email marketing tools, whether they be CRM systems like HubSpot or email marketing campaign systems like Brevo. And what they do is they enable you to either drip or send newsletters to people, but it's a fixed email that that person will receive. Greg, on the other hand, wanted a system. He didn't want an AI tool. So we've developed and designed a system on make.com that is fully automated. So once we've got your name or your email address, we're able to actually build a profile on you and really assess in a lot of detail who you are and how you would benefit from working with Greg. And you can see here, there's a lot of leads. I'm just going to move it so I can sort these and group
And
these
one thing I
by
want to just point
their
out
status.
that, this is Airtable that you're sharing, but Airtable is simply, in my dumbing down version, it's a database that contains the data that is being pulled from and queried from ChatGPT, Perplexity. It could be connected to Manus, Gemini, really any AI system. But this is like the container that holds the data as it's doing that work. Is that right, Jake?
Exactly. So we use it as a database, as a vector store of information. And it's important that businesses start to think about how to create a database behind their business, because once you've got this as a database, you actually build a knowledge base for an AI to be able to utilize in your system. So right now it's an AI SDR toolkit. Once somebody has come into this machine, we're able to send an AI agent to their website and to the LinkedIn to build a profile on this person. So we can see in here, we know where this person is from. They're the founder and number one robot at Blue Ocean Strategic Partners. And we can send an AI agent to their company website. So this is their company website, and we can perform an analysis to understand their brand positioning, the clarity of their messaging, the design of the website, the trust signals and the proof, and then suggested improvements. We can send an agent to their LinkedIn profile. We can understand their trajectory in terms of their career, a snapshot of who they are, their language and style. We could even go so far to use this tone, language, and style to be able to personalize an email in the same tonality or responsive tonality to the tonality that they use on their LinkedIn. I'll show you more about how we can fine tune the agents to do that in a
So,
moment.
Jay, can I pause you for a second? Because I want to
Certainly.
just put a flag in the ground to uh, show the power of this is, and then we'll go back to your screen in a second. So I just want to share on my screen here. This is an email from Deborah Schwartz. She's the CEO of a company called RocketYourBiz.com. This is a response that Deborah sent this is her response from receiving an email that was sent to her. And I just want to read this out aloud here. Thank you for your insightful comments. Your email is either the best AI crafted message I've seen or a testament to the thorough research your team has conducted. And she's saying, I must admit there was some intention behind the lackluster messaging, blah, blah, blah. But here she's saying she truly appreciates the effort your team has put in the outreach and would be delighted to have a conversation. So, this is the kind of response that I think every business wants to get from the energy that their team is spending on outbound. And I just want to put the flag in the ground here because this is the kind of response that you can get with a tuned AI SDR. And I'll show you what that email looks like later that was actually sent to her it doesn't read like a cold email. It looks like the kind of email that Jake is talking about. So Jake, do you want to pick up your screen again?
Yeah. So just jumping back into where we left off. Once we have their company and we know who they are, we can perform a background research into the company. So we can see here, we know when it was founded, we know who it targets, we can see exactly what the structure of Blue Ocean Strategic Partners does, and we spend a great deal of effort in terms of how we prompt the AI agent to research all different facets of their company. Now, the reason why we do this and we perform an industry analysis as well is so that we can create a really personalized email, an email that will have so much information inside of it, it will be very difficult for a human to distinguish whether this was created by somebody that spent a lot of time researching or an AI. I'll let Greg show you more examples of the kind of outputs that it will do in a moment, but we can see here that it writes 3 emails in sequence. How we actually change and customize this system is from this AI agent control panel. So here we have the personal analysis AI agent. So we actually give it 3 types of prompts, which is a system prompt, a user prompt, and we actually have a final prompt, which is an assistant prompt, which isn't used so much. But just like the output of the research, we can see here that we're asking this agent to perform the snapshot, to understand the experience and the trajectory of that person, the personal branding and language style, trust signals, and strategic insights. We could change this. We could remove trajectory and ask it to understand the kind of technologies that this person might list on their LinkedIn profile that they're into.
And so let me just interject here. The reason why we're doing this, and the reason why I feel that this is important, because I've learned in selling, and maybe Barbara, Amy, and Ram, you feel it as well, that in selling and in buying, people, customers, they will react better when they feel like you understand them more than you pushing your story upon them. What do you think about that? You think that's true? That people react better when they realize that you understand them better than you're trying to explain yourself?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the reason, sort of the philosophical reason why I want to have a AI SDR that acts like a really good sales development rep, which does the research, that really tunes in to in a resonant way of who they're talking to. And I feel like my theory is that while this is beginning to scale now, if you could really do this, if you could really train an AI to have that kind of resonant frequency in outbound, it really should, just by law, work very well for your business. Jake, did you want to?
I was just wondering if Barbara had a question there. I can see that she's raised a hand.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Jake. On the email database that you've shown us, are all the people on that list those who have either been clients of yours or who have reached out to you in the past, or are they just, like people that you thought were ideal and you targeted them?
Yeah,
And
so I can answer that for this particular context. So those are people that had already provided consent to be a part of the newsletter that PitchKitchen has. So they were on the subscribe list for PitchKitchen's webinars. So those are people who already knew who PitchKitchen is. They said, yes, I'm interested in attending a webinar. So they were like what I call a prospect list, people that had previously raised their hands in interest, but they were not customers. So to answer your question, Barbara, that's who they are. That said, you could also use another list. You can do some research and identify 100 or 500 ideal customers. And the starting point is just their email address. If you have their email address, that's the only thing that the AI SDR would need to do the deep research.
and are you using MailChimp for the emails that are going out?
Yeah, well, no, the emails that are going out go out through PitchKitchen's domain, and MailChimp is being used for the marketing
Sorry,
newsletter. Pardon?
what are you using MailChimp for?
For the marketing newsletter to let everyone, like, it's a one to many email that says, "Hey, everybody, we're having a webinar next week. Hope you can make it." Kind of, that's the purpose of MailChimp. But these emails that the AI SDR sends is not sent through MailChimp. That's sent through a PitchKitchen domain. And the numbers of emails are very low that are being sent out, only about 20 to 30 per day, unlike MailChimp that can send thousands of emails. And the reason for that is MailChimp looks like, well, first of all, it goes into your promotions folder. People know that it's a one-to-many email. It says unsubscribe at the bottom, and it looks like a marketing email. I want the AI SDR to send through regular email, so it looks like it's coming from me or from someone on my team.
Okay, thank you.
I think that leads into a good demonstration here. So what you see in front of us here, Barbara, is the sequences of this AI SDR. So we start with the leads. They come in via MailChimp, as in somebody responds positively like, "Hey, Greg, I can't wait to see your webinar on the AI SDR." Once we've received that, we go to scenario number 3, which is the research. It's the research agent that Greg showed. Then once we've researched about this person and we understand all these data points around what this person does, who they work for, the background of the company, the industry that they're in, the strengths, the weaknesses, and the opportunities that exist around this potential prospect, then we can write the perfect email with those data points. Once we've written this, it's actually scheduled into the machine to be reviewed. We can send it automatically, or we can have human oversight to make sure that we can adjust. And also, as we train the agent, we want to check the way and the style of which the agent is writing the email. From there onwards, we'll send this email. If they respond, we can then move it inside the AI SDR. If they don't respond, we can send a second and a third follow-up email. So I'll just jump in, Greg, and show them what that actually looks like for a couple of these sequences. So feel free to stop me. Okay, so when somebody replies on MailChimp, it looks like this as a scenario. We can see that this is run. So we're watching the MailChimp subscribers. If somebody responds, or we have a signal that they've responded positively, we're actually taking this person and we're storing them inside the lead table here in Airtable. Okay, so we can see here MailChimp into the Airtable. And then we can get that person, extract their email address, and then with this tool called Apollo.io, we can take this email address, and if we don't have the data, we can enrich the data points around them, meaning we can find their company website, their LinkedIn profile, and additional information such as their job title and which company that they work at. We update these records, and we have this information therefore stored in our database. Once they're stored in our database, they're actually registered as qualified. If they're registered as qualified, we use an automation on the back end of Airtable to say, if this person is qualified, when the lead is qualified, send the information to this webhook. It sounds more complicated than it is, but really what's happening is the information from Airtable is being sent to make.com. We grab that information saying this person is qualified. From there, we can extract the data around this person, this record, as if you would. Now, I'll just show you one of the flows so we don't overcomplicate it. This is their website analysis. This is the LinkedIn profile analysis. This is the company research and the industry analysis around this person. Now, how it works is, let's say that we want to understand about this person's LinkedIn profile. We send an agent to that LinkedIn profile. So we provide the agent with the information from the LinkedIn profile. Once we've got that, we can then send it to the ChatGPT agent, which is fine-tuned by Greg to effectively grab this prompt from inside the Airtable. So we can see here, this is the personal analysis prompt.
And I just want to make a comment about the prompt. So the prompting is where the creative experimentation lies. And I think this is something, it's not just set once and go to sleep. This is about seeing the results and experimenting with what comes out. And there's lots of learnings here on how to prompt this. So I think you don't go to prompting school to learn how to prompt. I think the best way to do it is just through exploration and experimentation.
Right. And the beauty of this system is it can really be redesigned for anybody or any means, because we extract that prompt and we put that into the GPT agent. If Greg wanted to change what he wanted that information on the LinkedIn profile to be analyzed, the framework of how it was going to be analyzed, we'd simply change the prompt, which would then be changed inside here. So we're actually extracting the system prompt and the user prompt, and then we're providing the information, such as the data points from this person's LinkedIn profile, to be able to create analysis. And once this analysis is outputted it, then we actually update that information back in to the Airtable, which will come out as the LinkedIn personal analysis here. So you can see an example of how that would look. Is that clear, Greg? Is there
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
that I've...
that's clear, I think. But let's ask Barbara and Amy and Ram if they think it's clear. Any questions that you want to ask so that this can be really clear to you?
I have a question, just because working with other chat GPTs and such, it can be kind of time consuming to get the output that you're looking for. And Greg, if you've tweaked it, I'm just wondering, the timeline of getting it perfected. I
Yeah, so
probably,
so perfected. So
yeah.
first of all, I love you, Amy. It's nice to see you again. The perfection, there's no such thing, but I would say that I review the emails that go out every day. And when I see things that I like, I'm like, oh, that's cool. First of all, every email that goes out is written better than I could write it. So that's just fact. But does it have the right angle? Does it have an angle that I would like, oh, maybe it should take this angle or this, frame it in this way? So once I get an idea of maybe shifting the strategy slightly, then I'll go to the prompt and tune the prompt differently to see different outputs. But it's not about perfecting, it's about seeing what gets better results. Another thing to realize is that while I think it's a great email, like, oh my gosh, like, wow, this is brilliant, the person receiving it may not think it's a great email. They may not react at all. It just may be noise to them. So I'm trying to judge the how good the prompt is, not just by how I think the output is, but what the actual response is from people who are receiving the email. Does that make sense, Amy?
It does. And are these, I'm assuming that it's taking the data from LinkedIn, like based on their personas and all encompassing, right?
Jake, how deep does it go with LinkedIn? Like
Yeah,
their last
so
post, their profile page, their
right. So we're able to pretty much extract all of the information. So if they have featured posts or the recent activity, we can extract the recent posts and the activity. In fact, that's how we generally define the person's style and tonality of how they speak. So anything that's on their front-facing LinkedIn page, we can effectively extract all of that information out, their career history, their education history, and then we can change the prompt if we wanted to focus on those different data points. So there's really no limitation. If we've got the connection and they've got the information, then we can extract through LinkedIn, no problem. It doesn't have to be publicly facing either, because the way that we actually take that information out of LinkedIn is via an API. So we can actually do it as if we were logged in to LinkedIn.
So let me show you the prompt, Amy, here. So this is the user prompt. Write a 3-part outbound email sequence for, actually, I'm going to change that. Sequence. This person may have come across PitchKitchen through an invitation to a masterclass, so it's not a cold email. But first, if it is a cold email, you'll want to take that out. Use the attached PDF research, which includes company messaging, SWOT style analysis. In fact, I don't think I have that anymore. Web copy and LinkedIn background. Goals. Show the prospect you understand who they are, what their business is trying to do. Reflect gaps or missed opportunities in their messaging. So that's what we sell. It's what PitchKitchen does. So I'm looking for that angle. And what I did was I actually asked GPT to isolate the wisdom and insights that I have offered in the last year. It's in my book, Storycraft for Disruptors. And once I did that, I basically taught the AI all the insights that I have learned and that I'm finding in the business. And then I'm basically asking it to use these insights, whichever is most relevant based on the research that it did. So I kind of think the way of thinking about AI is like a Harvard grad who knows everything but doesn't really know anything about my business, and to train it with the knowledge and insights of our business so that it can communicate and act even more effectively than I can. So that's like my mindset in creating a prompt here. I do certain things that I've learned, like use a reverse yes question in every call to action, because I've realized that strategy, people feel safer when they say no instead of yes. So instead of saying, would you like to schedule 20 minutes with me? I like to say, would it be totally crazy to, or would it be bonkers to? So these are stylistic things that I like to train the prompt that I find in a communication setting. I learned that this particular communication piece from Christopher Voss, who wrote the book Never Split the Difference. He's the ex-FBI hostage negotiator. Anyway, so I pick up some wisdom along my life and I train the AIs to use that wisdom to write amazing emails.
I think Ram has a question.
Yeah, Greg, I love the Harvard analogy. That's right on the money there. This is impressive. The question that goes begging for us, right? First of all, we are a Microsoft startup company devoted to assisting Gen AI for pharma, medical devices, and biologics, right? The biggest issue we're having, as we show, for example, our /FDA Copilot, is how do you ensure that whatever Gen AI spits out is FDA regulatory aligned, right? I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the FDA, but having worked for Pfizer and other
Yeah,
pharma
so I'm
companies.
going to jump in. I can't wait
Go,
to
go ahead.
jump into this question.
Go ahead.
So Ram, how do you do that today?
Okay. Let me answer that question two ways. The first way is how most people do it, right? How most people do it is they would look at Gen AI summarization or categorization or whatever it might be, and they end up dropping back to Google, which is pretty cluttered, noisy, and good luck with the peek and poke of links, right? What we ended up doing post-COVID is realize that, look, there really has to be a better way. When you go to the FDA's website, it's abysmally old school, metadata based, impossible to find anything. The same goes with 21 CFR. There's two regulatory species in the world I live in. One is suggested guidance, which is the PDFs. The other one is legally mandatory requirement by the FDA. They can slap you and shut down your
All right,
plant,
so
whatever.
Ram, I'm just going to interrupt because I don't want to go down too far deep with the rabbit hole.
No, let me just finish.
Yeah.
What we ended up doing was we collected the actual FDA's regulations, ended up posting them on SharePoint, rendering them full text searchable. So now you, the human, can search the actual publications, but
Yeah.
we're going to harvest that into agentic AI. That's work in progress for us.
Oh, well, you don't even need to wait for the agents, Ram. This is what you got to do. Step one, upload those into a custom GPT, all those FDA documents. Step two, train that GPT that it needs to produce a certain kind of output through the lens that you know that if you were to do it, that was the lens that you would use. Step three, open that assistant up through an API, and then you can access that whenever you're doing analysis.
That's what we're doing, Greg, with agentic AI.
Great. And when you say agentic AI, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
Well, we use Microsoft's AutoGen to orchestrate workflows and so on.
Right. And so in my book, that's still not agentic. That's like automations. And I just want to be strict about the definitions because there's a lot of people throwing around agents these days. But like Scooby-Doo, remember they ripped the mask off of the villain and it wasn't who you thought it was? I
Mhm.
feel like every time I rip the mask off of anyone's calling an agent, it's not an agent. It's an automation. So I just want
No.
to be clear. Agents is what I'm really excited about what's coming, probably by later this year, next year. And those are I don't know what we call them, agents that are making decisions with the tool sets available to them. So that's a different level. And I just wanted to like be a little religious about the definitions.
No, no, we're perfectly good, understood. That's where we're headed to.
Great. Cool. Great conversation. Thank you, Ram. And I think that's a great use case because even today, or even before COVID, how would you be making sure that your output is compliant?
Oh,
And you,
absolutely.
you can't be. I mean, even
Yeah,
using a human, there's probably a certain percentage of mistakes that you'll find, even with a person.
absolutely. Absolutely. Depends
So,
on your search keywords. Never going to be perfect, but as close as you can get to it.
so I think what you'll probably find if you set up this system like you're setting up, that it'll be far more accurate than a person would be.
We hope so. That's the intent.
Cool. So, Jake, what else would you like to show in this show and tell before we start
I
giving away
think
stuff?
I'd like to just jump back in here for a second. Say, like these these are actually acting agents because the definition is that they have access to stores of information. So what we actually have here is we're retrieving the information from the Airtable, which is the vector store, the knowledge base. Now, even if in the knowledge base is Greg's prompt, which has all the information around who Greg is, the tonality that he uses, the pearls of wisdom that he's collected over the years, reading various books, we're actually able to extract that and then use this in one of these agents to write the email. So this is actually the email writing sequence here. So this one is special, and it's special particularly to me because it runs on O1, which in my opinion, they've recently removed as well from the ChatGPT Pro, is by far the best language model for writing. So these are actually the prompts that Greg's written, but we also extract all the additional data points and research points around that person to craft the ultimate email. What we also do is we use this script here to pass out those different emails because we're writing 3, not 1. And because we're writing this in one agent, it means that the logic is all encompassed inside one of those writing agents. I think, Ram, to answer your question as well, you can always adjust the temperature of an agent. You can see here, actually, ChatGPT gives us a nice little definition around adjusting temperature. Higher temperatures give more diversity, and lower temperatures give a more accurate response. So this is the email writing part. I think that that's where I'll kind of stop sharing about how to integrate different knowledge bases into agents. And maybe, Greg, we can look at maybe some more of the output so you can give your
Yeah.
wisdom on how you fine-tuned this particular email writing agent. Because, like I say, I think personally that the responses that you get from it are phenomenal, and the writing style, you would
Sure.
not know it's an
Sure.
AI.
Sure. So let me just ask a question to the group here. How much do you think it costs to use the O1 and Perplexity? And if you were to add all the costs up, like for all the uses of AI, how much money do you think it costs to send one email? And so if you were to give some brain cycle time to like how much you think it would cost, just like put a number in the chat or say it out loud. How much you think it costs? So it cost $100, $50, $1. Like how much you think it costs? 20 cents, 1 cent?
So
Because
I
AI
know
costs more.
with us, when we add on the AI feature to our product, depending on their volume, it can be anywhere from 10 cents to $4
Right.
per message.
That's right. That's pretty much what we're looking at too. So we're not doing this at, a huge volume because it is expensive to use AI, but we want to use it in the most efficient way. All right, so but we're finding it's somewhere between 50 cents to $1.25, and we're trying to optimize that now because you don't have to use the most expensive AIs for all the different pieces of the research assignment. All right, so this is what the email looks like to Don. Don, this might feel a bit random, or maybe you caught our CEO Masterclass recently, but I've been digging into some tech consulting companies like yours, and I noticed a big opportunity in how you're telling your story. The research says you're strong at delivering verified tier one tech professionals in record time. That's a killer edge. So first of all, I want to point out ChatGPT does a really good job at complementary style communications. I'm sure like you've seen this. I've actually had to train GPTs against confirmation bias because there's so much of it there. Like, what am I missing? What should I be looking at? Where's my blind spots? By the way, I just want to add that here because I see a lot of the output is a lot of confirmation bias. Anyway, but it's not the best product or speed that wins a buyer's heart. It's the best story that solves the real problem. What I see typically in high-end services is that many folks talk nonstop about how great they are and how many thousands of projects they've completed. Typical website. Meanwhile, prospects only care about the mess they're dealing with right now, like figuring out advanced AI or building that next level cloud infrastructure. So it wrote these pieces here based on all the research, and I'll show you the research on Don above. So it didn't go into that much detail, considering all the detail that it has about Don. I'm just going to show you there for the minute, like industry focus, clientele, business process optimization. Like it knows a lot about Don's business, but it really chose the first email, it chose to be pretty high level here. And this sentence here is pretty much a pitch. This is actually a pitch that was written for Don. So even though this pitch shows up in a lot of emails, it's written different each time because that's the way what's the word? Generative. That's what generative AI does. It creates new spin-ups each time based on the training. So, what are your thoughts about this here so far? This email or how it was written, the training that it was trained on? It sounds like you're doing something similar, Amy, with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of twofold. So we sell more like call center agentic AI, but in going to market, like me personally, using ChatGPT, kind of using the same prompts. But one thing that is monotonous is having to enter it every single time. You know, all the parameters in the prompt I work at, I'm in sales at, the goals, priorities, list all these things, having to either copy and paste it or tweak it. So I like having the bank that you can choose from in this. Um, and I guess a question I have for you on this as well, and the emails that I've seen, the output are great. Does it learn from itself? Like, are you tracking the success of the emails, like the email sent if it books a meeting or?
Yeah, so we just started this process, so all that is being measured now. But I wanted to just comment on Amy, how you sounds like there's a monotonous piece to what you're doing, which is the copying and pasting, um, and I just wanted to dig in a little bit with that because my feeling is you shouldn't have to be editing what comes out of GPT. You shouldn't do that because that positions you as the cleanup bot of the robot. And that's not our job. I think humans should be contributing work at the highest point of contribution, which is in the prompt, in the steering, in the strategy. And then if you don't like what comes out at the back end, instead of editing it, my feeling is, and correct me anyone if you disagree, my feeling is if it's wrong, then go back and tune the strategy so that you're delighted with the output versus editing it on the back end. Because the danger of editing on the back end is that you're not continually training and it's going to make that same strategic mistake. And it also positions you as like the garbage person cleaning up the mess coming out of the robot, which is not our place.
I don't know if what I'm using in my go-to-market, it's just like free chat GPT. It's not so much that I'm training it. You know what I mean? Where like this is an actual system that you're putting all your details in it, you're saving your prompts. I have to write a new prompt every time. And so I have
Oh, I see.
like
So you,
saved in a Word document or something and I copy and paste it type of
I
deal.
see. So are you using custom GPTs or are you creating your own trained GPTs? Because you can do that for 20 bucks a month, I think.
No, I'm using like Gemini or something or
Okay,
chat.
yeah. So at the next level, if you wanted to upgrade your process, it would be that you can create the custom GPTs. And let me just show you what they look like. So here, this is ChatGPT. So if you just go in and chat, that's what you're doing. But what I'm suggesting you do is you create here, this black button, create a custom GPT. And I've created about 150 that do different things, and they're trained in different ways. So this way, I don't have to duplicate my efforts. If I find that I'm doing certain types of work, I'll create a specific GPT that helps with that kind of work. I think also this is kind of the future. I think when agents become available, we'll be having agents as a workforce and training those agents and managing those agents to get work done in a similar way as I'm managing these GPTs, or hopefully you'll be managing GPTs as well. Does that make sense? Is this helpful, Amy, Barbara?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
So I mean, happy to click into any of these. So these aren't accessible through APIs, by the way. You can create an assistant, and this is just the language of OpenAI. These are unable to be accessed through APIs, but you can create a similar GPT called an assistant that is accessible through an API. So you can connect it through the system that Jake is talking about.
Quick question
Yeah,
on
I'd agree.
that. I know you guys were showing Airtable, but can this system that you've been showing, it can pull from Salesforce or any API, is that correct?
Can.
Yeah.
We can pull it from Salesforce.
And then can you automate this like where it's, send this many today, tomorrow, the next day? Or do you have to go in and manually do that trigger?
Yeah, so it can be automated, but right now I'm babysitting because I want to tune up the prompts. I want to make sure I'm happy with the strategy. And once it gets to a steady state, I will be automating it. Because I want to be tracking things like how many are being sent today and how many meetings are booked and how effective is this approach. And once I tune that up and feel comfortable with it, I'll put it on automatic. Just kind of, I guess, kind of like hiring a salesperson. If I was hiring an SDR for 50 to 75,000 a year, I would probably spend the first 2 or 3 weeks with them training them up about what they're doing. I'd be looking at some of their emails and I'd be cringing at some of them, of course, right? Because they go out like, "Oh, I can't believe she said that." And that's the same thing. It's the same process,
Yeah, and
but a lot cheaper and faster.
there's about six different prompts in the workflow as well. So that's like a team of six different people, research agents for the LinkedIn, research agents for the website, industry, and the company, as well as the email agent as well, which has all those data points. So there's actually more than just one or two agents to tune. So you get the optimum output by really focusing in how do we get each agent to perform the task in the way that's going to produce the optimal outcome.
So I'm putting in the chat here the giveaways that I promised, the GPT, the magnetic messaging framework, the 12 conversations. And I think the GPT I'm sharing with you. I also, yeah, the GPT is there and there in the chat. You can experiment with that particular GPT that's trained on the magnetic messaging framework, and it'll look at your website. You give your URL, and it'll give you a score and an assessment of how well it communicates. And this is an area that we're doing a deep dive in because I believe the SEO is dead, and that if you go, most people are going to GPT and asking questions, not going to Google. So, like, what would that look like if people are going to ChatGPT and saying, who should I trust to solve this kind of problem? And that problem is something that your organization solves in your industry. Will your organization come up? And so, what I'm doing work on now is learning how to um, build content on the homepage so that it trains the LLMs in the way that it will have that answer for you. And part of it is it's got to be great content, and it's got to be problem centric, because most people are talking to GPT about the challenges they're having versus looking for solutions. So the biggest challenge I see in a lot of websites is that it's all solution focused text and not problem centric text. So that's one reason why the AIs, the LLMs, aren't learning what problems your business is solving. So it doesn't know how to answer that question if someone were to ask it. So that's our first learnings that we're deploying now. We're making sure that the homepage has words that are problem centric versus solution centric. Hey, Amy, good to see you. You're on mute, by the way. So as we're wrapping up
Asking
here,
earlier, so I didn't want to be on video with you guys, but good to see you.
sure, great. So as we're wrapping up here, want to make this super valuable to you. You can feel free to book an AI readiness strategy session. I'm going to just put that chat. I'm going to put Jake's link here in the chat. It's the Stob, book a call Stob if you wanted to do that. Jake could lead that call, and I'll be there in the background to support you. But I mean, this webinar today is to really talk about what Jake has built for PitchKitchen, and I believe is the future for sales teams. So
I just want to add one more thing on the end there. Greg's I can't take all the credit, because the sequencing and the structure of how this AI performs its tasks, how these different workflows and agents interact with one another, are Greg's pearls of wisdom. So we've actually taken this system and then started to use it for our own business. So we've actually developed the same system. We've changed the prompts. We've changed the email writing agents to make sure that it works for us. But I also want to say it's something that can work for anyone, work in their tool set as well. So if they have Salesforce, it can work with them. So it can be agnostic. What's important is the sequence and the flows and how they all fit together. So I'd also like to thank Greg just for inviting me on, giving me the opportunity to share that, but also for his own thoughts and way of actually constructing this machine that seems to be incredibly effective, and it's working for me too.
Big hugs there, Jake. I also like this system because I don't want to buy software. Our company buys so much software, and there's so many softwares and so many systems, and they're all not integrated. So I wanted to build a system that was basically AI was at the core. Like, I want to have open AI at the core of this system. And I wanted to buy or use or license whatever tools I need to license in order to tap the genius of AI instead of the other way around, which is buying some software. So I don't know how you feel about that, but that was one of my issues with looking for a solution. I didn't want to have to buy another piece of software that someone was selling.
I think what Jake said about the sequencing, that's the hardest part, is, really getting that effectively received from your audience, because like we use outreach and their AI is not that great. I never leverage it because it doesn't have the tone, no matter how many times I tell it to have the tone, and I like the process that you can set up, this persona, and it'll just trigger the things out. But there's definitely a gap, and like you said, all of our systems, none of them talk to each other. So that's really the struggle, So I love that Jake complimented you for your sequencing skills and the content there. That's the mastery, right?
I'd agree.
Or I thank you for the compliment, but I am no master. I am a explorer in stuff that we all, I believe, need to be curious about because I'm very excited about where AI is headed and for the next few years. But I also see that a lot of people are just, not doing anything. And like this AI SDR job, that's a 50 to 75K job that's going bye-bye, not just in my business, but in probably a million businesses in the world in the next year. And so there'll be some impact.
Yeah.
I have one quick question. So when we book time on your calendar, is it okay if I bring someone else to join me? Like I'd like to bring my leader because I have no decision-making power on anything, but I just take in the ideas. Just want to make sure that would be okay.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you guys. This was very helpful.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Barbara, nice to see you. Hope you got some value from this conversation. Great. Okay, guys. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Have a good one.